Line here to start, but that's okay, I guess. Right? Let's see if the sound's working. Yeah, it's working. Five, four, three, two, one. I'm John Miglosh for the WDMA. We're going to be talking about TikTok today, mostly, right? But we'll work in some mail because, that's what we always do. So here we go. Let's get to the fun part. And we'll talk about this in a second, but here we go.
Get the fajita quesadilla, which you can only get it in the Chipotle app. You know what else you can get in the Chipotle app? The vinaigrette. As we speak, I'm literally filming from the Chipotle test kitchen. I like to eat the Keithadilla, the vinaigrette, because I don't eat Chipotle without it.
So he takes the vinaigrette and mixes it with sour cream.
2 scoops. 3 scoops.
3 scoops
That's the
of sour
desired
cream.
color I'm looking for. And the only thing we do now is dig.
And then he takes a bite of it. And that
It's worth the wait.
is that.
Y'all be safe.
Okay, so that had a couple million views on TikTok, and apparently there were a bunch of them leading up to that. So we'll get to the story in a second. Let's get over to Tom Fishburne. Okay, and here we go. Tom has innovation and TikTok. Okay, and it says our innovation process. There's whittling down all the ideas and all the testing and all of the focus groups. And then after 18 months of R&D, we pivot to something our CEO's teenage daughter says is trending on TikTok. Okay. And so I literally can't stand TikTok because, if you put it on your phone, it actually used up like 2 gig of my monthly data while I was traveling. It was not open. It was not running. My son sent me a TikTok video and I watched it, and I think I installed it and then I watched it and then I closed it, I thought. But apparently it keeps running, and it keeps running whether you're on Wi-Fi or not, which I wasn't. And so, I had, it was a terrible data suck, and probably because it's telling everyone in the world what else you're looking at. So anyway, I uninstalled it. But it, when you have it installed and you bring it up, it just starts blaring at you. Bang. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. So, you can search on, this is, the Wall Street Journal had a great feature last week on Chipotle and the Keithadilla. And that was Keith that we just saw. And in late 2022, a TikTok influencer named Keith Lee, that was the guy, reinterpreted the Chipotle quesadilla as an off-menu hack that included a DIY sauce combining Chipotle's honey vinaigrette and sour cream, which, seems a little bit like a white Italian dressing, which is not, unusual. It's not that big a deal. But anyway, he liked it, and Chipotle was soon overwhelmed, and it sounds like from the article, we'll get to the Wall Street Journal in a second, overwhelmed by a surge of custom orders. Now, these orders, mind you, you were able to order them somehow, sort of, but it created a massive logistical challenge to the to the Chipotle employees and their supply chain. I don't quite know why. Some staff refused to make it. Okay, you can't have the honey vinaigrette. They ran out apparently. Ultimately, by February, just a few months later, Chipotle made the Keithadilla a permanent menu item, which included tech updates to 3,200 restaurants and training for 100,000 employees. It's not easy adding a menu item, right? Chris Brand said we wanted to be at the pulse of culture, right? So only a few months it took them to make that decision and roll it out. I love how the story captures the tension between long product development and ever-changing consumer tastes. Okay? At the center of the tension right now is TikTok, which Corey Robinson, Chief Product Officer for Abercrombie & Fitch, says is a billion-person focus group. okay, and with its pluses and minuses, which I've touched on before. So the tricky part is that Fishburne remembers a debate at one stage gate meeting where someone argued a particular food craze was a trad, a made-up word that meant it had a sudden spike of a fad, but would also have the staying power of a trend. Okay, the spike of a fad and the staying power of a trend. In this case, ultimately, it was a fad that faded soon after the products were launched. Will the Keithadilla stand the test of time? No one knows, but businesses that can figure out how to build more creativity, flexibility, and consumer engagement into the operations will have an advantage. And I think that's the real message, the real takeaway. And I've got a couple more articles we're going to look at. Okay, TikTok. Remember to tell our brand story, hit all our key messages, convey our brand purpose, have a clear call to action. And this is TikTok, so has to go viral. So on the count of 3, start dancing. What TikTok is forcing people into. The innovation tunnel. Concept, assess, develop, test, stage gate. Right? And we need to do something so innovative that no brand has ever done anything like it. I think it's the same guy then later when they come up with all their ideas says, seems risky. Can you give examples of other brands that have done this? It's tough to be first, but Trout and Reese argue that the first is really the only one that matters. And if you can't be first in your category, come up with a new category. And Trout and Reese say your brain has a certain number of slots. Like if you, they give the illustration, who was the first man to fly across the Atlantic solo? And it's Charles Lindbergh. And you say, who was the first woman? And it's Amelia Earhart. And even if you're Gen Z, you might know those answers. We certainly do in the boomer group. But who was the second? Can't tell you. Can't tell you in either case. And that is the truth about most of your brain. It's okay with building a new category more than it's going to put in multiple entries in an existing category. So, you can't have it both ways. Now that we've brainstormed all of these exciting new ideas, it's time to sort them. Tried it before, yes, but too risky. If it was a good idea, someone would already be doing it. Yeah, okay. Okay, so here's the Wall Street Journal article, and I was trying to do a follow-up. We do in-depth study. One thing I did find that was Chipotle has doubled their sales since 2018 from $5 billion to $10 billion. Pretty good. And their CEO, who's been there a while now, he started in 2018, says we could open twice as many stores if we want and double that sales again. And just to note, here, since they announced the Keithadilla, their stock price has gone up something like 33%. From 1,500 to over 2,000. Okay, so and it hasn't plunged in the volatile stock market. It's been basically constant. This is year to date. And so, from that standpoint, they're doing better than Bud Light. Who didn't pay so much attention to most of their market. So, this is again the story, but they said it was tricky because the sauce ran out and staffers refused to make it, and they got bad reviews online. But now it's a permanent part of their menu, so there's disruptive insights, disruptive force in research and product cycles, testing, differentiation, and manufacturing. But what nobody points out, neither Tom Fishburne nor the Wall Street Journal, is how often the long stream 18-month product development fails. And one of the takeaways from In Search of Excellence, and many of the companies that were in there went downhill after. But I remember it being a game-changing book in the late 70s. It said the companies that could pilot test products would be most successful. And 3M was one of the cases, and they told the story in the book of the Post-it note, and they pointed out that the Post-it note nobody wanted. It was developed by a church choir member at 3M, and he didn't want to mark up the music in the hymnal. And so he tried figuring out a way to get adhesive that sticks a bit, but not too much. And it's very difficult. And in fact, I have this Uline imprinted merchandise cube, and they don't have legitimate 3M product, I can tell on this, which is a shame, and it doesn't stick at all. And all of my Post-it notes that I've used around here are laying around because I have whole piles of them, because they don't stick to anything after just a short period of time. I still use it to write notes on sometimes. It's handy. It sticks above the chaos of my desk. Actually, my desk is pretty clean right now. But 3M didn't want to spend much on it, but did a sampling program. I remember getting the samples in about 1978 or so, and I thought, this is a dumb idea, but, you know, it caught on. But it's a gamble. It's not only a gamble if you get your inspiration from TikTok. It's a gamble no matter what you do. Okay? Corey Robinson says every single merchant and designer is looking at TikTok. Abercrombie & Fish says she's chief product. I don't know if Corey's male or female. It's one of those gender neutral names. I know some of each. A billion-person focus group. Okay? But how do you sort through a billion-person focus group? You pick the ones you like. Do what you want. Okay, Tarte Cosmetics noticed a color shifting product based on your pH, and they were able to develop it in only 2 or 3 months. Product came together in 3 months, and it's now the fastest selling product of all time. Okay, so sometimes there's a payoff. I did work with Victor Hsu down in St. Louis. He had been a professor of chemistry at Washington University, and he met me at a conference I was speaking at, and he said that his business model was spotting trends. And at the time, recently before that, there'd been the O-ring bracelet, and it was just a simple plastic colored O-ring around your wrist, and girls would wear hundreds of them. Madonna was famous for wearing maybe thousands of them. And he had started that trend. And he said, what we do is we track trends, and when they are going up, we massively manufacture. And then as soon as they start to peak, just the curve starts to invert the slope of the curve a little bit, we stop. And I remembered that you know, for a while you could buy O-ring bracelets in any gas station or anywhere, you know, any convenience store. He showed me a doll that you put your hand in, and it's a puppet doll combination. And he showed me a warehouse where ceiling to floor in probably a 30-foot tall warehouse, or maybe bigger, 40-foot. The whole back wall was boxes of these dolls. He said that's what we had left over when the peak, but he said you should see how many we sold. And so that was his shtick. He could take a product and photograph it in-house, fly the films. This was back in the 80s, I think. Fly the films to Taiwan, get the printing done, fly all of the literature back again. A bank of telemarketers would call novelty retailers. He would first market it to the boutique retailers, and then the big box retailers would spot the trend, and so he would fuel it at the beginning, and then the big retailers would place big orders, and then he would stop, and then they could deal with the rest of it. And this may be a tip for those of you trying to do this, that you don't want to stay with it too long, no matter what it is, almost. Okay? So they said you have to get these things out right when they're trendy. If you do it too late, it's not worth it. Okay? And here's a story about they sent out a stick moisturizer, and the influencers put it in the freezer and said you could massage your face with it, but it could potentially change the chemistry and burn your skin, and so they scrapped that idea. And you know, when you put things out fast, the marketplace is going to do what the marketplace wants. But if you put them out slowly, your chance of success probably does not increase. Samsung made some really big product innovations a few years ago, and the way they did it was they sent their product developers out into the streets of China and Asia and talked to consumers who were talking on their telephone and asked them what they would like and what they didn't like about their phone. You know, I personally don't like that there's no charging light on a phone. There's a charging light on every little device I've ever bought. You know, even your little Bluetooth headphones and all that stuff have a little light that comes on when the charger is properly connected. Your phone, if it's dead, doesn't show that. I mean, you can click the side of it now and puts one up, but there's no reason they couldn't put a couple of dots of the LED screen and make that work, right? So anyway, there's a story of a pink sauce, Pepto-Bismol colored dressing that Veronica Shaw developed from dragon fruit. And she had a lot of problems with getting the formula shippable, and the bottles would break. And so she partnered with Dave's Gourmet, and now she receives a royalty. And Dave's has connections with distribution and big box stores, and has turned the TikTok trend into a nationally distributed product in 90 days, which is the theme of the Wall Street Journal ad, and Fishburne didn't really come to say that. Brands like H&M and Zara copied fashion trends and churned them out in a matter of weeks. Now, a new generation does it in a matter of days, and they go on to talk about etiquetted or something like that. And they said, for us, it's like a lab. Retailers in the past looked at forecasting WSGN, Catwalks, Fashion Week, and tried to guess what the trend will be. We don't need to guess when we have TikTok. Well, you still have to guess because you have too many opinions, right? But you can probably spot the trends in the way the algorithm pushes different fashion ideas. Okay, so they place orders in little batches, and they average a 12-day turnaround. Okay, they might produce a lot of duds, and they must be disposed of quickly, right? And they went and listed the duds. Most of these trends fade within weeks, but some can last years. And again, if they used Victor Shu's methodology, they might be safe from that. Okay, and I just wanted to touch on this one by Bill Farquharson. And he said, why marketing frustrates. And basically his point is, he said, marketing is a huge dollop of waiting. In November, my marketing director warned me about the patience it would take for our all-in approach to LinkedIn to bear fruit. Okay, for some reason they were going to commit to LinkedIn. Apparently it's a B2B company. 12 to 18 months, she said. Despite the fact that was not welcome news, having that expectation has helped me prepare for the long haul. And so marketing is like, stay consistent. You create a marketing plan based on information you have at the time, stay consistent, and then you wait. But if you can shorten that up, or if you can test alternatives effectively, and that's what direct marketing is about, and that's what the WDMA is about. And so if you want to know how to take the skill of testing, which these clothing manufacturers are executing, then you want to support WDMA. There's a link under almost every post we do, almost every description. It's wdma.org/join, and you can get right there and support us. Bill says, if marketing was a Marvel character, it would be a big, clunky, and slow and boring. It would move at a glacier pace and be as nimble as an iceberg. There you go. Okay, yawn. The best time to create a marketing plan was 18 months ago. The second best time is today. Ready, fire, aim. Always been the motto here. Have a great day. Like and share. Your friends will know you're smart. And you can get that Wall Street Journal ad or article even if you are blocked from their firewall by subscribing to WDMA.org. Bye-bye.